All right, so today we're going to dive deep into something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a pretty big concept, and
Yeah.
it's one that I think resonates with a lot of people. We're talking about God's faithful love, and we're going to use Psalm 136.26 as a jumping off point here.
Okay.
Now, there's this devotional entry I came across,
Mm-hmm.
and it really digs into this verse, which says, "Give thanks to the God of heaven, his love endures forever." What really got me thinking was, what makes this love so different?
Yeah.
And, how can just recognizing it change how we look at things?
Well, you hit the nail on the head with that enduring forever bit. It's kind of hard for us to wrap our heads around, isn't it? I mean, we're used to thinking about time in a very linear way, like a beginning, middle, end kind of thing. But this verse,
Right.
it's pointing to something way bigger, something beyond that.
It really is. And the devotional really emphasizes this idea that God's love isn't like here today, gone tomorrow, or based on, whether we're being good or not. It's presented as this absolute constant, this rock-solid foundation.
Right.
But I'm curious, how does that actually play out in our lives?
Mm-hmm.
How does this psalm tie God's faithfulness to this idea of never-ending love?
Well, that's where the word faithfulness comes in. It's huge. In the Bible, it's not just about having warm, fuzzy feelings. It's way deeper than that. It's about a promise, a commitment, like an unbreakable covenant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So God's faithfulness, it means his love isn't just sitting there. It's active. It's working in us and through us, even when we're totally oblivious.
I see what you mean. And the devotional encourages us to actually celebrate this faithfulness, not just in the big life-changing moments, but also in the everyday stuff, the things we might just take for granted.
Right.
Sometimes, though, I got to admit, it's tough for me to connect the dots.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what's so great about the devotional. It's like a roadmap for doing just that. Think about it. Have you ever felt this sudden sense of peace when you're in the middle of some crazy, stressful situation? Or maybe you get support right when you need it most, seemingly out of the blue.
Yeah, actually.
Those could be little hints, those tiny signs of God's love working behind the scenes.
You know what? You're right. It doesn't always have to be this huge, dramatic thing.
Exactly.
The devotional talks about how even those small, seemingly ordinary things can be seen as expressions of God's love if we just choose to look at them differently.
Totally. It's a shift in perspective, right? It could be something as simple as the warmth of the sun on your skin, a real, genuine laugh you share with someone, or like a breathtaking sunset. When we view these everyday things through a lens of gratitude, they become almost sacred,
Yeah,
Like they take on a whole new meaning.
And that's where the devotional challenges us, right?
Mm-hmm.
To take a minute and intentionally thank God for a time we felt his faithfulness.
And that act of thanking, just expressing that gratitude, it has a much bigger impact than we might realize. Did you know there's actually a bunch of research that shows that gratitude can actually make us happier? It can lower stress and even improve our physical health. But in this context, when we're intentionally acknowledging God's love in our lives, it deepens our faith, our connection to, the divine.
It's like we're changing our focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like looking for the good stuff instead of getting stuck in all the negative things.
Exactly.
The devotional wraps up with this beautiful, simple prayer. Lord, I thank you for your steadfast love that never fails. Amen.
I'm curious, though, when things are really tough, when bad things happen, it can be hard to get this, to really believe it.
Yeah.
How does the devotional address that? It's a great question, and a lot of people struggle with it. And the devotional doesn't pretend that suffering doesn't exist, It acknowledges that it's real. But it suggests that even in those dark times, God's love is still there, like an anchor in a storm. It's saying, lean into that love. Trust that even when you can't see the path ahead, God is with you, walking with you through it.
So it's less about this prayer being some magic formula and more about cultivating that attitude of gratitude, right?
Yeah.
How about you? How does this prayer resonate with you personally?
Hmm.
Are there other ways you connect with that idea of God's enduring love and express gratitude for it?
For me, I think it's less about specific words and more about that posture, that open-hearted posture of recognizing and appreciating the good, whether that's through prayer, meditation, just spending time in nature, or simply acknowledging the blessings in my life. The key is to tap into that sense of awe and gratitude in a way that feels real, authentic.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So as we come up from this deep dive, the big takeaway here is that recognizing and appreciating God's faithful love can be such a source of strength and comfort. It's a love that's always there, always available, even when we don't feel it. just waiting to be discovered and celebrated in every single moment, big or small.
As you go about your day, try to actively look for those little glimpses of God's love. Think about those times when you felt guided, even if you couldn't quite explain it. Say a silent thank you for the simple things you might normally overlook. How might changing your perspective like that change how you experience the world? That's something to ponder.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into God's faithful love. We'll see you next time.